Hello everyone, today we're going to look at another Mikhail Tal game played in 1988 against the English Grandmaster Jonathan Speelman, and this was played in the World Cup in Reykjavik. Here Tal is white and Speelman is black, and as you'll see in this game we're in for another treat with Tal's tactics. So Tal plays e4, Speelman plays d6, and we're getting to a Pirc opening, so d4, g6, Tal plays knight f3 and bishop g7 from black. Tal now plays bishop to e2, developing the bishop, and knight to f6 from Speelman, attacking the pawn straight away. Tal defends with knight c3 and both sides castle, and here Speelman hits out straight away in the centre with c5, attacking this d4 pawn. Now white can actually take this with d takes c5, and after d takes c5 white could just simply play h3. This is quite a nice variation. A mistake for black here is to swap queens. If queen takes d1, rook takes d1. White actually has a really fine position. He's developed all his pieces and probably will play bishop to e3 and get the knights infiltrating black's weaknesses on c7 for instance. So let's see, look at this knight b5, looks really tempting here, followed by knight c7. Instead black should opt to play knight c6 and just develop, and it's actually quite an even game. But here Tal didn't actually take on c5, he pushed with d5. So keeping the centre closed and stopping black from playing moves like knight c6. So instead Speelman plays knight to a6, where he'll retreat the knight back to c7 and possibly play b5 at a later date. If Tal takes this knight, it's actually not very good for white because that bishop's quite good. If the b takes a6, rook e1, black now has the open b file, so I can play rook b8, and now has the bishop and the rook eyeing up this b2 pawn. If rook b1, black can now find equality with e6, and after d takes e6, bishop takes, black's in an okay position. He has doubled a pawns, but this open file for the rook on b8 clearly has some nice compensation. Tal here just played rook e1 though, developing his other piece and supporting this e pawn. And of course Speelman played knight c7 now, preparing b5 as I've stated earlier. a4 was an option now for white. I think this was a decent move actually. After bishop g4, h3, captures and a6, preparing b5 again, white should now probably play a5, and this stops any b5 ideas because of takes, and white's got a pretty nice position here, so I'm surprised Tal didn't go for this as well. Instead he played bishop to f4, allowing b5, so Speelman kindly accepted. Now the problem with b5 is that there's two pieces attacking it straight away, so maybe this is what Tal thought. So you got the knight and the bishop attacking it already. The problem is though the black knight is attacking e4, and we'll see what happens next. Tal now plays knight takes b5, and Speelman captures now on e4 because it's undefended. So basically a pawn trade. But now black's bishop is opened up, and it gets into quite an interesting game. After knight takes c7, queen takes c7, Tal now plays bishop c4, attacking this knight. So black could take on b2 here, but then will just come rook takes e4, and after captures, this is so much better for white. It's got two pieces for the rook and not something Speelman would be interested in. f5 was a potential idea for black here, supporting the knight, and after rook b1 to protect the pawn, h6, and white could actually come up with a really crafty move now. He could play bishop to e5, and for instance if d takes e5 here, white can now just push this pawn up with check, so the bishop's checking the king and the pawn's capturing the queen. However, the only problem with bishop to e5 here is that it doesn't actually do anything, so black could just simply ignore it with rook b8, and after captures, queen d3, it's in quite a balanced position, so f5 was a potential idea for black right here. Instead, Speelman went back, knight f6, and Tal now plays h3, stopping any bishop g4 ideas or knight g4 ideas. So here Speelman plays rook e8, supporting the e7 pawn, which is a very weak pawn actually. It's a backward pawn because this d pawn's so dominant in the centre for white. Rook b1 now to protect this b2 pawn and support it, and a5 from Speelman. a4 was given by the computer here actually, and after bishop a6, bishop takes, rook takes, the computer likes solidity here. He plays c4, And I think the idea is just to manoeuvre that knight all the way to b5. Would be really nice space for the knight to move to. And white doesn't really have any problems here. So this is what the computer would opt for. But Tal had other ideas. He played queen to d2 here. And here Speelman played queen to b6. Preparing bishop to a6 and moving the queen off that pesky diagonal from the bishop. Here Tal played rook to e3. And Speelman develops his last piece, bishop to a6, and Tal now just takes off. Queen takes a6 and rook b to e1, so now attacking this e7 pawn. There was actually a very interesting variation after queen c4 here, because after rook takes e7, rook takes e7 and rook captures again, black now takes on a2, all materials still equal, and rook b7 to protect the b2 pawn, and a4. But now white can play knight g5, and we get into this interesting variation after queen takes d5, queen takes, knight takes, bishop takes d6, bishop takes b2, rook takes b2. Black can now play a3 and it gets into a drawn position after rook a2, knight b4, rook a1 and knight takes c2. So black's given up the bishop, but we're in this drawn position where black can just go back and forth to knight b4 and knight c2, and white just plays rook a1, rook a2 every time. Instead though, Speelman played king f8 here to support the e7 pawn with the king, and Tal now gets his pieces into the attack. He plays knight to g5. Maybe black should have just kicked this knight away straight away after h6, knight to e4, g5, bishop g3, and this is an equal position for both sides. And there's no way for white to get through at the moment anyway. So maybe black should have played this in the game and kicked the knight away. But he played queen to b7 here, so supporting the e7 pawn, attacking the d5 pawn and the b2 pawn at the same time. This actually looks like a good move on paper. But Tal finds another exceptional move. He plays c4, defending d5 and b2 at the same time. Queen b4 now from Speelman, so attacking the c4 pawn again and attacking the queen. But Tal just plays queen to e2 and sidesteps this. And again, we find another interesting variation actually for black. Black can now play knight takes d5, so Speelman could have gone for this. After c takes, queen takes f4. But interestingly, this actually succumbs to knight to e6 check, which is a very bold move. So it's forking the king and queen, forced to take it, and white plays rook to f3. After e5, rook takes f4, so white's now won the queen. After e takes f4, so black's got two rooks and the bishop, white's got the queen and the rook. And after queen g4, bishop takes b2, queen h4 and king g8, rook takes e7, rook takes, queen takes. Black can play bishop e5 and white plays queen c7. Now you've got to ask the question, who's winning this position? The computer gives white as better. I guess the queen's better than the bishop and the rook. However, black does have the extra pawn, and you've got to ask the question, if black just leaves that bishop on e5 forever, how is white going to break through? The only real idea is if white can get his king all the way up to this side of the board, but it's going to be very tricky to do this. But the computers give this as white as better, and it'd be interesting to see this played out in a real game. So Speelman could have gone for this with knight takes d5 here. Instead though, he now tries to kick the knight away with h6, but Tal comes up with a brilliant plan. He now plays knight takes f7, sacrificing his knight. A brilliant move. After the king captures, he plays rook to b3, attacking the queen, and the queen's now got one space, queen a4. And Tal folds up now with queen e6 check. The king is forced to f8, it's the only square. And Tal now follows up with his attack with rook to b7. So now three pieces are attacking this e7 pawn, and it looks as though white's going to break through. Knight g8 looks as though it defends everything, but now Tal can play rook e3. After queen d1, king h2, maybe bishop f6. Bishop takes d6 is a great move because the e-pawn can't capture it due to this f7 weakness, and the rook will be supporting the 7th rank. So black will be busted here. In the game, Speelman now plays queen takes c4, And Tal actually plays the main move that we just saw, bishop takes d6. And again, black can't capture this bishop. Knight g8 is played by Speelman to support the e7 pawn because now there's 4 pieces attacking it. But Tal just follows up nicely with rook to e3, playing it really simply. So rook f3 is now a major threat. Bishop f6 from Speelman to defend e7 and block this f3 idea, but just rook f3 anyway. And rook takes f6 is now a big threat because after rook takes f6, if the knight recaptures, then the queen can just capture because this e7 pawn is pinned by this bishop. So here Speelman played king g7 to undo this threat, but Tal just plays bishop takes e7 here. After rook takes e7, rook takes e7, knight takes e7, Tal just plays queen takes f6, king g8 is played by Speelman, and after queen f7, king h8, Tal now calmly just takes his knight back. So it looks as though black's got some equality here. Surely if queen takes d5 as was played in the game by Speelman, it looks as though black's not doing too badly, he's just a pawn down here. But no. I wonder if you can find the winning move now. I'll give you 5 seconds, I'll just pause the video and see what you think. So of course here Tal now plays rook to f7 and Speelman actually resigned here. So why did he resign? Well, rook h7 and queen g7 is actually unstoppable, and if something like queen d4 to stop it, just rook h7, king g8 and queen f7 is checkmate. And there's no perpetuals because after queen d1, king h2, where does black go to continue the checks? It's actually just game over. So amazingly, after all this simplification, white's just won the game. And this was a great attack by Tal. All started off with knight takes f7. So let's have a look at this again. King takes f7 and rook b3 is a nice move. And just gets queen e6 and infiltrates black's position. And there's no way for black to actually defend bishop takes d6 here, and it's game over for Speelman. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please drop a like if you did, and subscribe if you want to watch more chess videos in the future. It really helps the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.